starting off with a loss, it does dent the confidence.
And historically, I suppose rugby fans might look at that Rebels result and say, well, if they can win on the road against the Crusaders of all teams, they should be able to beat any team on the road.
I think so. And when you consider that Dan Carter was playing for the Crusaders too, and they had a very good side on the park, the Crusaders, but they just couldn't get out of first gear from what I could see. The Rebels just storming over the top in a similar fashion to the Force against the Waratahs yesterday, steamrolling the opposition, and it would appear as though the mindset is just so important these days in rugby, by what I've seen in the first half.
And just one of the teams to mention, perhaps the best win of all, really, was the Hurricanes on the road in South Africa. If you can win round one in South Africa, you really are off to a flying start.
Yeah, that's right. Scoring 2 tries there to 1, the Hurricanes against the Lions. Wasn't a bad game of rugby. A lot of mistakes, as you'd expect in these early rounds. It was played at Ellis Park. Not easy to play in Johannesburg when you're travelling from overseas. But I thought the Hurricanes were fantastic, capitalising on the Lions' mistakes with Perenara and Proctor scoring tries. And a terrific way to start the season, especially, as you say, in South Africa.
King Gable with his reflections on an amazing round one of Super Rugby for the new season in Australia, New Zealand and South Africa. The semi-final in the World Rugby Sevens between Fiji and South Africa is underway in Las Vegas, and I can report that Fiji have taken an early lead with a converted try. They lead by 7 points to 0 against the South Africans, who are currently top of the World Series standings. It is early stages in the first half of that match. And Australia, they're through to the plate final, where I believe they will play old rivals England. Samoa knocked out by Kenya in the semis of the bowl. Kenya, I think, will be playing Argentina for another of the minor trophies. Of course, the big one, though, it's the Fiji versus South Africa in one semi-final, to be followed by the USA against New Zealand in the other. Fiji leading by 7 points to 0 early in the first half. A couple of other sports stories to bring you up to date. The under 20 soccer team from Fiji currently on tour in Myanmar as they continue their build-up to their debut in the World Cup finals later this year, to be hosted by New Zealand. Fiji were due to play both Myanmar, the host nation, and also Uzbekistan in their warm-up matches, but of course they've now been drawn against Uzbekistan in the World Cup finals themselves, and the Uzbeks, understandably, have decided that they no longer wish to play Fiji in a warm-up match. So that match has actually been cancelled. But what it means is that Fiji will now play Myanmar, I believe, twice while they're in that country, before moving on to play a further series of 3 matches in Malaysia later in the month. Fiji's opening match, of course, in the World Cup on June the 1st in Christchurch will be against Germany. What an encounter that promises to be. And here's from the English FA Cup results from overnight. Another giant killing act by Bradford City. They beat Chelsea in the last round. Well, now they've beaten another English Premier League side at Sunderland by 2 goals to 0 in front of their biggest crowd for around half a century, I believe. So well done to third tier Bradford City defeating EPL Sunderland. And Arsenal, they're safely through. They beat Middlesbrough from the second tier of English football by 2 goals to 0. Here at Pacific Beats here on Radio Australia, having the time to take a check on what's making headlines in Marshall Islands. We're joined by our regular contributor at the start of the week, the editor of the Marshall Islands Journal, Giff Johnson. Giff, good morning to you.
Good morning.
The remittance picture in Marshall Islands changed dramatically, I understand, compared to a decade ago. Tens of thousands of Marshall Islanders talking about residents in the United States. So how is the pattern shifting exactly?
Well, quite a number of years ago, when Marshall Islanders first started heading to the U.S., we saw very little in the way of remittances and covered it in the paper, talked to people. Not only was there very little money coming in from the U.S., a lot of